can't remember when I first heard the word networking. I mean, consciously really understood what that meant. I mean, you go to high school and, reading, writing, arithmetic, chemistry, college prep, whatever it is, talk to you about being smart and studying skills and all those things. Really nothing about relationships and how relationships mattered. You go off to college and they really prepare you for a corporate job. At least that was my experience. Great education, don't get me wrong, but there was really very little conversation about how relationships all work together. There might have been a mention of networking here or there, but really it was just kind of lip service, just kind of a passing, oh yeah, you understand this. And for me, I went to law school and I got an MBA as well. Really no conversation about it. And I kind of went through those experiences with the mindset that you do well in school, get credentials, go to a good school, credentials, take all the right classes, and everything will work out. And I remember as I was preparing to graduate from law school that spring semester, starting my job search, trying to figure out what I was going to do. And maybe it started in my last year in law school. Talking to my dad about it. My dad was a college professor, and he just sort of lip service to, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And that was pretty much it. And there really wasn't a whole lot of conversation about it. And then I went off to, I went off into the working world, and you just kind of, you grind away. I'm just going to work hard. I'm going to, outwork people. And that's the answer. And you soon realize that everybody has the same credentials you do. Everybody has the same education. Everybody has similar experience. Everybody has the same work ethic. What's the separator? And you see people out there who are doing really well and really successful, people who are years ahead of you, and you just kind of wonder, well, how do they do that? They're really not that smart. And here's somebody who's really smart and not really moved along. And it was kind of a missing piece. It was kind of like dark matter in the universe. I really didn't understand it. And as I'll share in a little bit with respect to my background, it started to make sense. You started to realize, okay, there was a difference here, what the difference was. And I was in my 30s by the time I really understood this, or started to understand it. I still don't totally understand it. But that's, it's a lot of time. A lot of time was, a lot of relationships along the way. People ask me what my, not big regret, but if I had to do it all over again, what would I have done differently? And the difference I would have done is I would have gotten more connected in college. There were so many great people who were on the campus of Beloit College or wherever you went to college. And I was just hung up with the same group of people. And there were good people and they're very successful. Don't get me wrong. But the surface area of my network could have been much bigger if I would have understood now, or understood then what I understand now, I guess is what I want to say. So today's program is on networking and what it really is. And to be honest, a lot of times I hesitate to do this program because, to me, it's so second nature. But what I find is that it really becomes one of the more popular programs that I do because so few people really understand networking and really what it is. And once you can really put your head around some of these basics, and you start to look at the world totally different. Again, I look back at college now totally different than I do now. I look back at college and I run into some of those people, and thank God for social media and LinkedIn, Facebook, and I'm able to reconnect with these people and realize, okay, it's not too late. I can still have relationships with these people, and things. And I'm not saying great things come from them, but you can learn from these people. It's just amazing. But I'm always very curious as to why people find this so fascinating. But I shouldn't. I should understand. I've been studying this stuff for years. But I guess that's a good jumping off point to really talk about who I am. My name is Frank Agan. I run an organization called Spirit Business Connections. It's a referral-based networking organization. We create chapters of entrepreneurs, sales reps, and professionals come together on a weekly basis to learn about each other and exchange referrals. It's similar in nature to a LaTip or a BNI or some other sorts of networking groups that are out there. Those are, I guess, quote unquote competitors. But my backstory, I have a law degree and an MBA from the Ohio State University. Came to Columbus, Ohio in 1984, not knowing anybody. Just came here to go to law school. Did reasonably well in school, not great, but got a job in public accounting as a tax consultant. It was a great job, great pay, great everything. And I'll reference that as well. I didn't want to do taxes for the rest of my life, so I decided to leave and go into private practice. And when I went into private practice, nothing happened. I had no idea how to get clients. Again, I was of this mindset, you just do well. You've had these credentials. I've got all these credentials, and, I've looked into what a reasonable rate per hour is. Why wouldn't people want to hire me as an attorney? And the reality is, it's not that people don't care about those things, but really relationships were everything. And the people who were successful had relationships and knew how to build relationships. And I was really behind when it came to those sorts of things. So I left and got into this networking group, this Spirit Business Connect. Well, I left and I didn't know how to get clients. And I asked somebody, I said, what do I need to do to be successful? And they said to get into a tips club. And so I got into what is now Spirit Business Connections. It had a different name at the time. But I became president of my chapter. I was on a national advisory board. And that led me into an opportunity to buy it out. And I did. And this was the early 2000s. I stopped the practice of law and became a student of this networking thing. I was not an expert. Still don't consider myself an expert. I'm always learning. Hopefully I can impart some of that on you as well. But every day I spend trying to help people become more successful through networking. I have a couple podcasts out there, Networking RX Minute. And I also have a number of books out there, 4 of them which are on the screen, which deal with the topic of being more successful with networking. With respect to Spirit, if you have an interest in finding a chapter, reach out to me. My email will be at the end of this program. Likewise, we have part-time leadership opportunities to become part of our leadership team, as well as a franchising program. I'm happy to talk about any of that, but that's not why you're here. And so what I really want to do is dive into this notion of networking and try and help you transform yourself by understanding it better. Let's start with a working definition. When I get out and talk with groups, I'll ask people what they think of networking, what networking might be. And if 12 people answer, I'll get 12 different answers. I usually try to course correct everybody with this very simple answer. Networking is 2 or more people working towards their mutual benefits. But it's got to be more than 2, right? You can't network with yourself. So it's 2 or more people trying to help one another. And that's really, that's the working definition that we'll go from in this whole thing. I'm changing my page on my notes here. But 2 or more people, it's really about creating relationships, if you will. It's really about creating relationships, and that's a great lead into the next slide. Networking tends to get a bad rap. And the reason it gets a bad rap is because everybody sees networking as this production-oriented, very calculated means of prospecting and selling. And that's how they think about networking. And when I talk to people and tell them what I do, they kind of roll their eyes like, oh, we don't need any more networking. You know what? Networking is everything. Networking is about building relationships. It's just a quick little term that we use to talk about it. But networking is about, socializing with family and friends. That's networking. 2 or more people working to to create mutual benefits. Content marketing, which I do a whole program on. Social media, LinkedIn. We're creating relationships on there. Community involvement. Being involved in your community is a form of networking, if you stop and think about it. However you define your community. Some people define it as the little town that they're in. Other people will define it as the suburb that they're in. It might be a larger city. They work throughout the whole city. I know people who do work really on an international basis or a national basis for sure. And their community is, the entire globe or maybe, the entire North America. That's their community, and that's their network of people that they're working within. Might be coaches and consultants who are really doing business and interacting and helping and supporting and being supported by people in that larger community. So however you define community, that's part of your universe of networking. Volunteering is another form of networking. From time to time, when I'm on podcasts, people are interviewing me and they'll always ask, what's the number one thing, the quick thing that somebody can do to get themselves networked? And I always come with volunteer. Find something that you're passionate about in the community, a charitable organization, something, and volunteer your time. Because when you get out there and you volunteer your time, you're going to be shoulder to shoulder, rubbing elbows with people who care about the same things you care about.